The truth behind Yu Menglong's mother, a family friend breaks the silence. The rain had been falling for hours, thin, relentless needles tapping against the windows of a forgotten tea house on the outskirts of Hangzhou. Inside, the air smelled of damp wood and old jasmine leaves. At precisely 9:17 p.m., a woman in a charcoal coat stepped through the door, paused as if weighing the cost of every breath she was about to take, and said quietly, "I can't carry this anymore." For decades, the story of Yu Menglong's mother had been a footnote, mentioned only in fragments, buried under polite interviews and carefully curated public narratives. Fans knew the actor's rise, his quiet discipline, his distant eyes in interviews. What they didn't know, what they were never meant to know, was the woman who shaped the silence behind that gaze. Until now. Because that night, a family friend, someone who had watched everything unfold from the shadows, decided to speak. And once the first word fell, the truth came down like a collapsing ceiling. The woman behind the curtain. To the public, Yu Menglong's mother was described in soft, unthreatening phrases: private, traditional, ill, reserved. She was never photographed, never quoted, never present at premieres or award ceremonies. Her absence became so normalized that no one questioned it. But according to the woman across the teacup that night, absence was the point. She wasn't invisible, the family friend said, fingers tightening around porcelain. She was made invisible. In the early years, Yu Menglong's mother, known within the family as Madame Yu, was described as sharp-minded, fiercely protective, and deeply observant. She noticed things. She remembered conversations. She asked the wrong questions. In families built on reputation and quiet power, that can be dangerous. A house that listened back. The family friend described the Yu household not as warm or cold, but alert. Every room felt like it was listening, she said. Even when you whispered, you felt heard. Madame Yu, according to this account, learned quickly which topics caused tension: finances, certain relatives, certain business associates whose names were never written down. She also noticed something else: how easily truths were rearranged. She didn't fight loudly, the friend explained. She fought by remembering. And that may have been her greatest mistake. The night, everything shifted. There was one night, never mentioned publicly, when the family's internal balance cracked. Yu Menglong was still young. Rain hammered the courtyard tiles. Voices rose behind closed doors. And then, silence, sharp and sudden, the kind that means a decision has been made. That night, according to the family friend, Madame Yu was told she would be stepping back for the good of the family and the future of her son. She laughed, the friend recalled bitterly. Not because it was funny, because it was unbelievable. Stepping back soon became disappearing. The slow erasure. The next years unfolded like a controlled demolition. First, invitations stopped arriving with her name on them. Then, relatives stopped calling her directly. Then, explanations were offered on her behalf: fatigue, nerves, poor health. None of it was fully false, the family friend said. That's how the best lies work. Madame Yu was moved between the rooms without windows. The first time the family friend returned to see Madame Yu after years of silence, she noticed something immediately wrong. The house had windows, but none of them opened. Not because they were locked, because the handles had been quietly removed. It wasn't a prison, the friend would later say. That's what made it worse. It was comfort designed to keep you still. Madame Yu sat near a lamp that was always on, even during the day. Her hair was neatly arranged, her clothes expensive, her posture flawless. To an outsider, she looked cared for, protected. But when she smiled, it arrived a second too late, like an echo trying to catch up with a sound that no longer existed. They tell me he's busy, Madame Yu said calmly. Busy is good. Busy means moving forward. The family friend realized then that the most dangerous lies are the ones spoken gently. A calendar that never changed. Time inside that house moved differently. Days were marked by medication schedules, approved visitors, carefully timed phone calls that never lasted long enough to say anything meaningful. A calendar hung on the wall, permanently turned to the same month. Madam, you noticed. They don't want me counting, she whispered once, her voice light, almost amused. Counting leads to remembering. The family friend described how conversations always drifted away from specifics. Names dissolved into pronouns. Events became that time. Questions were met with smiles. It was control without cruelty, and that made it invisible. The one call that slipped through. Then came the mistake. A late evening. A new staff member. A phone passed over without the usual warnings. Madame Yu's fingers trembled as she dialed a number she hadn't used in years. It rang twice. When Yu Menglong answered, the world seemed to tilt. He said, "Mom," like he was testing the word. The family friend recalled. Like he wasn't sure he was allowed to say it. They spoke only for minutes. Nothing dramatic. No accusations. No revelations. Just fragments. "Are you eating well? You look tired on screen." I kept the old books. But when the call ended, something irreversible had happened. Because once a controlled narrative cracks, it can never fully reseal. The aftermath of a voice. The next day, routines tightened. New rules. New explanations. A doctor's visit that felt more like an inspection. Staff who smiled less and listened more. Madame Yu was not punished. She was redirected. She became quieter, the family friend said. Not weaker. Sharper. From that point on, she stopped asking questions aloud. She began storing them. The hidden archive. What no one expected, what no system accounted for, was Madame Yu's discipline. She began memorizing details. Conversations. Dates. The exact phrasing of explanations that changed slightly over time. She folded truths into poems, coded recipes, annotations in old books. She treated memory like contraband, the family friend said. Something you hide inside yourself. And somewhere along the way, she began preparing, not to escape, but to be understood. Yu Menglong's growing unease. Publicly, Yu Menglong's career advanced with careful precision. Privately, according to the family friend, unease followed him like a shadow he couldn't quite see. He asked about his mother more often. Received answers that were technically sufficient and emotionally hollow. She's resting. She prefers privacy. She's proud of you. All true. All incomplete. Children know when a sentence is missing its ending, the friend said. The unspoken agreement. There was an unspoken rule inside the family. Never say her name too clearly. When you reduce someone to a concept, health, stability, discretion, you erase their ability to contradict you. Madame Yu understood this better than anyone. She stopped fighting the label, the family friend explained. She waited for the moment labels stopped working. The day the letters were moved. Years later, during a routine relocation of belongings, a box was quietly transferred. No one read it. No one inventoried it. Because it was labeled simply, old papers. Inside were the letters. Some written in ink. Others in pencil. Faint, but deliberate. Letters that didn't accuse, but clarified. That didn't rage, but recorded. She wasn't trying to destroy anyone, the family friend said. She was trying to survive the truth long enough for it to matter. Why this story refuses to stay buried? As the family friend finished her account, she leaned back and exhaled slowly. People think silence means nothing happened, she said. But silence is often proof that something happened too carefully. Madame Yu's story is not loud. It has no single villain, no dramatic confrontation. It is a story of power exercised politely, of love constrained by strategy, of a woman edited out of her own life. And somewhere, a son continues forward, carrying questions that grow heavier the longer they remain unanswered. The last thing she said. The family friend stood to leave and offered one final memory. Once, Madame Yu told me, if he ever asks, tell him I was never weak. I was just patient. Outside, the night stretched wide and quiet. And patience, like truth, was still working.